This is Lon Winters with Graphic Elephants.
This is Jimmy Lamp.
This is Matt Vassallo with the RhinestoneWorld.com.
And you're listening to the Two Regular Guys podcast.
And you are listening to the Two Regular Guys podcast.
Hosted by...
My name is Terry Combs, RG, regular guy.
And Aaron Montgomery.
We're just regular guys having fun and trying to make a living in this really cool and exciting industry.
I think we all want to succeed 100% of the time.
Seek to understand before I try and make myself understood.
Bring a ton of great information.
Coming to you live from somewhere dark, dirty, and dank.
All right, welcome into the show. It is Friday, June 23rd, 2023. I'm Terry Combs, and you can find me at terrycombs.com.
And I'm obviously not Aaron Montgomery. I'm Erich Campbell. You can find me at erichcampbell.com. Aaron is away at Skills USA this week, so bringing up the next generation of decorators, as we know he is keen to do. But today we have a great guest. We got Marshall Atkinson, who you guys may know. I think you should know him already. And he's actually going to talk about some new stuff, the use of AI. And there'll be a little follow-up from me and Terry talking about our favorite kind of Skynet adjacent jokes, I'm sure, about AI and what's going on with it. But Marshall has to leave a little early, so we're going to kind of change our format just a little bit and get straight into the news. All right. So we're going to have Cassie on from the Apparelist, and everybody get ready.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, Skills USA, really exciting. I got some updates this morning. So keep a lookout on apparelist.com because we'll be sharing some updates from that. But this morning, have some different headlines for all you regulators out there. Let's get into it. First headline, recent Supreme Court cases shine light on parody and derivative works. So while cases like the two that are shared in this article definitely fall more into the retail and consumer space, apparel decorators can learn a lot about what not to do when it comes to creating products based on artwork, designs, any overall branding that's not their own. So case one in this article highlights the parody side of things. Really spare you the legal jargon because it's really complicated and in-depth. But basically the case was about a dog toy that parodied the Jack Daniel's liquor bottles. So ultimately the Supreme Court justices did find that the dog toy was a condemnable infringement of the Jack Daniel's marks. Ooh, try saying that 10 times fast. I can't even say it once. And then case two looked at the role that copyright laws play in fostering artistic creativity. So this one was all about the use of a photo of Prince that was taken by a photographer named Lynn Goldsmith. Then a similar photo was used on the cover of a magazine, but obviously with lots of artistic rendering, designs. Again, both of these cases should make decorators evaluate their own use of various artwork. Obviously, it's great to use inspiration, get ideas, things like that, but there's a lot of gray area when it comes to this world, and it's a rabbit hole that we can all go really far into, but hopefully this article gets people thinking. Second headline I want to share with all of you this morning, Epson partners with the Five Guys Institute to battle plastic pollution. Hopefully no one's sick of me talking about sustainability yet, but it's really important. So in this one, the Five Guys Institute is a nonprofit organization dedicated to empowering action against the global crisis of plastic pollution. They do that through science, education, advocacy. So through this partnership specifically, Epson will focus on raising awareness of plastic pollution and identify solutions for customers to reduce plastics in their work at home. Epson will also support Five Guys leading solutions-focused research in 2023 by investigating the environmental fate and toxicity of bioplastics. There, again, lots of interesting jargon that goes into this. So I really encourage you to read the article. It's going to give you a lot of the details, but just a lot to do with waste, compost, plastics in the environment, everything like that. Third headline, this one's really fun. Sublimation industry pros launch education platform for those looking to master the craft. Cheryl Kuchek, she's a pretty well-known name in the sublimation space if you don't know her. She's also runs a sublimation business called Just My Imagination Designs. She teamed up with David Gross of Condi to launch this platform. There will be two key components, a beginner's course and an advanced course, and I think it's pretty self-explanatory which is which. But there will also be a community that people can join. It'll be kind of stylized like a membership thing. So there will be lots of benefits for people who join that. Dubbed Sublimation University, it will also offer graduating students the chance to teach and give back to the community. So lots of really cool opportunities there. The expected launch date is July 5th. We are following up with Cheryl and David on that launch date. We'll get the official word out to everybody, make sure we share it with y'all. But pretty cool stuff if you're interested or haven't done the world of sublimation, or even are looking for hard good sublimation opportunities beyond apparel. Really cool stuff there, guys. I know we're on a time crunch, so I'll go ahead and send it back to you, Eric and Terry.
Awesome.
All right.
I love the sublimation industry pros. That's very cool. I like this. Both those guys are going to be huge assets to that. So that's very cool. But Five Guyers, now I have a craving for a cheeseburger. That wasn't a dad joke, by the way.
I know, not even the dad joke. You're already starting now. And on top of that, I have to admit, every time I see people talking about the Supreme Court case about parody, and it's like there's always this fight. Come on, guys. If your stuff refers directly to somebody else's logo, just be really careful.
Yeah.
That's one of those things. It's like we all
Use
know
your-
it's a thing. Use
Yeah,
your
use
best
your common
interest.
sense.
Yeah, for real. So good to get that clarification, even if you're not into the legalistic stuff. But before we get Marshall in, everybody is clamoring for the dad joke. Why, I don't know. But I know that they all want the dad joke, whether or not we're changing things up. So, Terry, I think you got something good for us today. Let's get on with it, man.
I do, Eric. And in fact, it uses the word dad in the joke. So when I saw it, I'm like, well, this is perfect. So
Meta dad joke.
All right. So, Eric, during a bear attack, I accidentally played dad instead of playing dead.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But it all worked out. Now the bear can ride a bike without training wheels.
Oh, yep. That's a dad joke. That would be exactly what those are. If you're wondering, a master class in a joke that is just not particularly funny. All right, man. I love it. And I know everybody's waiting. Everybody's just starting out. And I know, like, everybody's saying, oh, we're changing things up. Yep, I know. Ramona's like, I think I just missed the dad joke. No, you didn't. Trust me, we're not going to do that to you, though we do want to move things on because we do have Marshall here waiting in the wings.
We even told Marshall, hey, listen, the only thing we can't move back is the dad joke. We just can't.
And the last comment on the dad joke before we get rolling, Todd coming in saying, of course, that was unbearable. Oh, Todd, you just made it worse, my man. All right, so without any further ado, let's bring on Marshall Atkinson, who is going to talk to us about AI. But first, let's just welcome him in. Welcome into the show, Marshall. Happy to have you in, man.
Hey guys, how you doing?
So awesome, Marshall. Thanks for coming in ahead of your own podcast. We're gonna
it's a busy
we're debating on. We promised you we'd get you out, but then what if we just drag our feet and Alan's there just waiting.
It's a busy morning, and my partner I see is watching. He's like, what the hell is he going to say?
How you doing, guys?
Don't use up all the stuff.
Don't use up all the good information.
Oh, come on, Marshall. We all know you always have more stuff, man. I'm not Terry, or I should talk.
Getting me to shut up is the problem, I think.
Same here, my man. So for the very few people who don't know, tell us just a brief bit about yourself and where you come from in the industry.
Well, I've been in the industry since '93, so about 30 years in, and run some really big shops. And now I'm a coach. I'm also co-owner of Shirt Lab with Tom Rowan and Allie Banholzer. I have all types of content creation. I've got a podcast called Success Stories. I blog every single week on my website, AtkinsonT-shirt.com. And of course, I've got the Q&A show with Alan Howe that airs just after yours. Yeah. And now I've got a new project, which is the MidJourney elevating print. It's hard to say. Elevating print creativity newsletter, which is all about trying to get folks using MidJourney with print and all the techniques and tools and tips that you can go. And we're actually using a lot of stories from people with what they did, where they made a mistake or where they had success, all that. That's what's in the newsletter. It publishes every single Monday, and it's $12 a month. So there's a lot of content for not a lot of money. If you'd like to subscribe, the link is right there under my name, and got a lot of people subscribing. So it's good. It's really a fantastic thing, and I'm happy to do it. And as an ex-art director, this is right up my alley. So lots of cool stuff there.
That's awesome. Well, Marshall, I'm just now getting my feet on the ground with direct to film as a new thing in the industry. So now there's MidJourney. Tell our listeners what it is and how they might use it.
So MidJourney is a way that you can use word prompts to artificially create an image that so MidJourney is trained on billions of images that are on the internet and image word pairs. So when you say skull in watercolor, just as 2 prompts, what it does is it tries to find skulls and tries to find what watercolor looks like and mashes them together to create a new image. It does not take images and do stuff with it. That's not how it works. So it's not actually taking anybody's artwork or photo or anything. It's kind of inspired by, and it just like assimilates a lot of stuff together in a new thing. And I can show you, I've got it set up right here. If you guys want to flip to that, I can type in something. And this is MidJourney. This is my MidJourney account. And how it works is that we can just type in, you start with imagine. That's how you start the prompt. And because you're a dad joke, we'll say bear, right?
Of course.
We'll say bear, and we'll say stained glass, if I can type it in right. Sometimes when you're learning this stuff, it's best to keep the prompt simple, and that way you can see what happens. And so it goes and it starts thinking about, what does a bear look like? What does stained glass look like? And it gives you 4 things, 4 examples, and we don't know what it's going to do. It's totally unpredictable, which is the really great thing and the horror at the same time.
About AI, yeah.
Okay,
Indeed.
and so this is it's going to resolve the thing here. Usually it's about 30 seconds or so, and it's creating some images. We don't know what's up here, and a lot of times it's your internet connection too.
For our podcast listeners, just go over to 2regularguys.com, the number 2 regularguys.com, and we'll have all this posted here sometime next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Another great reason to be on the YouTube feed, folks.
So here's our final result. Okay.
Yeah.
This took 30 seconds to create.
Holy cow, that's incredible.
Okay. Now we could take this and we can refine it. We can do some stuff. You could also, using other words, you can use less colors or more colors, or your color palette, or you can give it even more direction to get whatever you want out of it, right? And what's really fun here is, which of these do you like the best, Terry?
I think I like the one in the bottom right.
Bottom right. Okay, so so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this row of buttons controls that, right? So you have upscale, meaning we can make that larger, and we have variations, which means we can do variations based on that. So we'll upscale it real quick, and we'll also do variations just to show you what happens. So here's an upscale, right? And the MidJourney 5.2 just got released yesterday. So we actually have new buttons here that I actually haven't played with. But we'll look at this real quick. So here's a closer of the one that you liked. Okay. Yeah. So let's say you're a stained glass artist. Here's a way that you could iterate different designs quickly. This also could be, because we're doing DTF, what if we made that into a DTF transfer, or we'd use our Roland printer and made stickers out of it, right? There's all types of stuff that we could be doing with this. And just to show you the versatility, I'll do another prompt here. I don't want to take all my time, but we'll do, as soon as I can type imagine properly, we'll do bear, and then we'll do pencil sketch.
Well, and while you're doing that, so you and I are longtime screen printers.
Yep.
Do I have an option going in there to say and make it 6 colors or make it 4 colors?
Well, you can control the amount of colors by using words like duotone or monochrome or quad tone. You could also give it commands like blue.
Chrome.
Yeah, if you want things to be
nice
blue.
Colors.
You could also say isolated if you don't want to have a whole scene, right? There's a lot of ways you can do it. The only way it's like learning to cook or ride a bike or drive a car. The only way to learn how to do this is, guess what? Is to do it, right?
Yeah.
And I would recommend you start playing with stuff and you kind of mess around with it a little bit. And while we're waiting on the pencil sketch to come up, so this one is 4 versions of the one that you liked. Okay. Yeah. So they're all similar, but they're all different.
Right.
And then here is the pencil sketch of the bear, right? So let's say we're doing a 1 color of a bear, right? Look at the bottom left one here, right? Yeah. If you were to do like a national park logo or something and screen print that on a t-shirt, that's an instant seller right there. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, you didn't really have to do a whole lot. Now, why is this important? As a next art director, our job is to create amazing images for our clients as fast as we can. And the reason why I'm all amped up on this is because I'm old enough to know what it was like to use a stat camera, Terry. Okay. Remember that? You remember spending 2 days creating one piece of art because you had to do each plate by hand, make a blue line, make a camera ready, make the film, get it to dry. I mean, it was like forever. And then the personal computer came out and changed all that. And that's what happened. And we went from spending 2 days creating a piece of art to maybe an hour or 2 for something that was really great, maybe a little longer if it was some Photoshop thing. Now, I've got 4 bear images that look fantastic in a minute that I could send to a client and go, hey, which one of these do you like? Oh, you don't like them? I can re-roll it and do 4 more just as easy. And we could add logos. We could be using this. We could color it. We could bring it into Photoshop. We can edit it. We can do all types of stuff. And the way I've explained it is, for those of you that are familiar with American football, right? We can take the opening kickoff from our own end zone, and we can run it all the way down to about the 7 or 8 yard line. And it takes just a little more effort to score the touchdown. Okay. MidJourney is not perfect, but guess what? It gets us way farther down the field than we're ever able to do it. The trick is to control the image using the word prompts, which means you have to be very specific about what you want to do. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think honestly, I think of it as a way to do more ideation. It's getting over that blank page that just hunts people down. You have that blank page where you're staring at a thing, and if you don't really know where you're headed, this absolutely, at least if nothing else, gets you to the point where you start having some concepts to work from. If you really don't know where you're headed or you don't have good customer prompts, this could really save you. Now, I certainly see the arguments on the other side, but I think that's the thing. People don't always know where we're headed from this. You're talking about the prompts and how those are built, and it really is about almost learning the language of AI. But I'm sure that's some stuff you cover in your newsletter. What kind of stuff are you teaching? What can a decorator learn from the newsletter that will help them get started?
Well, we're teaching how to use lighting. We're teaching word prompts. We're giving challenges. Other readers are sharing what they're doing. We're also learning how to use the settings. We're learning how to do some things. You can actually use, instead of imagine, you could say /describe, upload any photograph, and it will share with you the word prompts to use it. I have an example of that I was on a coaching call the other day, and we did that exact thing with this beach photograph. And so we did /describe. It gave us 4 versions, and then we tried it ourselves. And of course, it gave us looking out an airplane window. So we don't like the wings. We rewrote it to something that was a little less airplane-y. And then we saved the one that we really liked. And this is what I actually posted on my Instagram earlier today, right? So this was completely generated by AI. Now imagine you're doing something for a real estate agent that sells beachfront property, right? This could be incorporated into a digital brochure. Maybe you throw that into something and you could print that on a t-shirt. Maybe, who knows what we could do, right? So it just allows you to have some different things. Now, for you, Erich, I just did bear embroidery. Okay. So here's some embroidered bears.
Okay. Also, for people who aren't watching, there's also some bears wearing embroidered gear. So that's fun.
So it's just,
that may not be what you meant, but
it's just crazy. We just use 2 words, right? So it's like the what do you do, right? And so you've got some questions here. So Ramona says, I like the idea of all original art.
Yeah.
What about copyright issues, right? So here's the thing. You can't copyright AI stuff because a human being did not create it. Okay. Now you take this stuff and you bring it into Photoshop and you goof around with it. Now that's your art. Okay. Also, what's really interesting here is we don't know that. I'm sure somebody is going to take MidJourney to court. We don't know where that's going, but in the meantime, we're really creating some really crazy things. And I can tell you that the thing with copywriting artwork is if you were to somebody steal your artwork, you're dumping easily $100,000 into that to take them to court. Okay. Yeah. So a lot of people don't ever take things to court for copyright issues unless you're Disney or Harley Davidson or Jack Daniels or whatever, because they've got better lawyers than you, right? So,
well, it's also hard to prove damage. I mean, that's the thing people don't realize too. Is sometimes it's hard to prove damages because you actually have to prove that there's been some monetary, damages to the brand or to your ability to sell. So there's a lot of folks who don't. You're right. Don't chase it. But I think you're right about it's going to get proved out. We'll have to see. I think we just haven't caught up. Just like you're writing a direct stream of educational material about MidJourney, and there's a feature came out today that you have to learn immediately. Like it's coming out so quickly, none of us are fully on top of it. We actually were talking in the green room before the show, and Marshall kind of said, "Hey, if you say you're an expert in this stuff, you're probably not because it's just moving too fast." I can't agree more.
You just have to be that guy like Marshall here who plays with it every day. And so Marshall, you said you can make it your own, but so at some point, like you were saying,
speaking of AI, the assistants are trying to listen in on this conversation.
But so the art comes from somewhere. At some point in time, is somebody going to say, and I think you kind of alluded to this, hey, wait a minute, that's my bear. That's
it's total. I don't see how anybody can prove that. Okay. Now here's the thing that I think will happen is, you'll say, hey, I'm doing a cool AI version of John Wick with Keanu, right? And he's going to say, I don't want that. Okay. Yeah. I think that's what's going to happen. Now, which bear is that? Who knows? Right. I think to me, we can't predict the future. These are some fantastic tools. We should be using it. We can make what we want our own. We can also take these images to Photoshop. We can do the editing. We can also bring it back to MidJourney. We can use a blend command where we can blend images together. There's a lot of things that we can do. And what this does is it doesn't take somebody's bear picture and then add a tree to it. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have to understand how the technology works. It isn't stealing from somebody, right? Now, it can be inspired by an artist, Picasso or Todd McFarlane or somebody in the style of so-and-so. It takes that, how they think and how they visualize stuff, and it might try to emulate that, but it's not taking somebody's painting and then adding a butterfly to it, and then now you've got a copyright thing. That's not how it works. So there, it's going to be very interesting how this proves out. Also, this isn't the only creative AI tool. There's plenty of them. There's DALL-E, you have Photoshop, generative fill, Photoshop, Adobe Firefly. There's a lot of stuff out there that you could use. To me, MidJourney is the most popular one that gets the fastest and best results. That's the reason why I'm doing the newsletter on it. And that's because most people are using it. So if I'm trying to make a commercial thing like a newsletter, it's the, you go with the most popular thing because it has the most users, right? And I love using it. It is the most amazing thing. Also, it doesn't have to be a scene. Okay. So I got you can do flowers, right? So this is just my kind of portfolio thing that MidJourney has, right? You can see all the different types of images that I'm sharing. There is one I did the other day of a burlap bag texture. So I created this 30 seconds, brought it into Photoshop, made it monochrome, made it, posterized it, and then brought that in and shoved that into some words for a really interesting look for a piece, right? It doesn't have to be the full-on thing, right? Sometimes you just want one little chunk of something, okay? And that's what makes this is really interesting and makes it a really great tool for your art department, because you can iterate and create faster. Okay. That's the important thing, is that we're able to create faster things for our clients and make them happy. That's the end goal, is happy clients. Right. So anyway, so that's kind of the overview of what it is. Would love for you guys to subscribe to the newsletter and learn more. We constantly ask questions for our readers about where they're stubbing their toe, what doesn't work for them. That way I can create content. Our newsletter that's coming out on Monday is going to have an industrial designer showing how he's using MidJourney to use textures so he can iterate faster. He creates products for Nike and a bunch of different people. Also, I've got a whole thing on there about how to take your MidJourney file and separate it into spot colors in Photoshop using channels. So there's a video and a step-by-step instruction. I do that every issue. There's a step-by-step about how to do stuff. So this is really tactical ways of using this software. And I think for anybody that's got an art department, this is really kind of a tool that you really need to be using.
Marshall, I was just going to ask you this last question. I know you have to go.
Sure.
But, I was talking to someone just yesterday that has 11 illustrators in his art department. Should they say it ain't so, or should they say, oh my gosh, look at this incredible tool I have now?
Well, imagine how much more productive those 11 illustrators can be if, instead of spending 6 hours creating something, they're only spending 10 minutes creating the image. Let's just say we want, if you, Eric, just flip back to my thing. We want to do cute little cats for something, right? So here's cute little kittens. These take no time to do. I did this with one of my coaching clients the other day, right? We talked about using a yellow kitten, right? And here's MidJourney. Okay, how do we use it? Okay, let's isolate it and we can make a sticker out of it. So let's say you wanted to do a sticker set with cute kittens. You could do a dozen of these in maybe 5 minutes and gang print them, right? And then here's one that's orange. So instead of yellow, you got orange. So these are all with word prompts, right? And you could just change, instead of orange, you could do red, gray, purple, whatever. And then that's a whole series we could isolate it, gang sheet them, and start printing stuff. And it's a theme that you can build. The trick here is about trying to understand the words that you use. Okay?
Yeah.
I can't emphasize that enough. The only way to learn is to start playing with it. I've created a spreadsheet for myself. I've tried, I think I'm around 240 or 250 different word prompts that totally make impact on the image that I've tried and re-rolled and that kind of stuff.
The bigger your vocabulary, the better you are at this. So Erich,
I know. Let me tell you, that's like, for those of us who do have some writing background, I'm sure we feel a little vindicated for these useless degrees we have, because honestly, it becomes kind of this language exercise. And at the same time, what I'll say is, for those of you who think that it just completely obliviates having someone who knows design, absolutely not. You have to be able to describe it correctly. And then once you're done with these are not ready, not necessarily for, I'd say, like business to business logo work. If you're doing logo work, you're going to have to do work on that. That's not just going to come directly out of a prompt. But I will say, like I said for earlier, this is the same thing with text-based AI, which I'm going to talk about as well later. Sometimes when you're just facing the blank page, anything to break you out of that, I don't quite get it. If you could sit there and refine a pose by continuing to describe it, and then you could redraw right on top of it. It's nothing different than what we've done with raster art that a customer has provided for years. So I think that there's a argument for it as a tool. I think people freak out because they see it used as like plugins that go direct to digital print, where people have no filter in between the two. And I can see why that freaks people out, but I think there's a medium where we can use it as a tool. It doesn't have to mean that everybody who does art is just out of a job today.
Yeah, right. So here's an image. It's a one color. So Terry, you're asking about that, right?
Yeah.
So imagine that you're doing something for your local high school and their mascots to Spartans. So you create a Spartan helmet that's more elaborate than they've ever had. You print this 18 inches high on a black t-shirt and drop their school logo on it. And I guarantee you're selling a gazillion shirts.
Exactly right.
And this took a minute to design, right? So here's the prompts: Spartan warrior helmet, duotone, high contrast, black background, metallic, detailed texture. That's it.
Very cool. I tell you what, every DTG and DTF decorator out there is going to love this.
I will say,
Marshall, I have 100 more questions, so you have to promise to come back.
Yes.
And I'll let Erich send you on your way here.
Well, well, everybody's been asking, where are you teaching this class? But guys, it's already in the descriptions here. This is a newsletter, but still, tell us a little bit more about where they can reach out to you and where they can see you outside of the whole MidJourney experiment.
Yeah, thanks. So in my, see if I can get my finger right here. In this prompt right here is the bit.ly link for the newsletter where you can go and subscribe. It's $12 a month. If you want to pay for the yearly, it's only $100. And so you get a little savings there. And it publishes every single Monday. And some of your viewers are already subscribed. So thank you for subscribing. And it's totally interactive. I want to know what you're doing. I want to know how you're using it. I want to know what's working or not working for you. So either we can celebrate your victory or we can explain, hey, let's see how we can fix that. So because other people are probably having the same challenge, because a lot of it is not intuitive. This lives on Discord. Okay. So it's just a crazy mess of stuff. It's not easy to use. There is no easy button. You just got to get in there and mess around with it, right? So there's that. By the way, if you're going to be at the ISS Fort Worth show, I'm teaching a class on this, and we're going to be talking about ChatGPT. We're going to be talking about MidJourney. We're going to be talking about Photoshop Generative Fill, and also Adobe Firefly. Those are the 4 things that we're going to be doing. And we're going to be doing live demonstrations during the class. Cross the fingers that my internet connection works.
I was just thinking the same thing.
All presenters know that feeling.
And so that's that. And then one last plug, if I can do it.
Absolutely.
I would. Shirt Lab New Orleans is coming up. If you could share that real quick, Erich. Coming up next month, July the 29th, Saturday. We have an amazing lineup of speakers, and it's going to be lots of fun. So our networking event is July the 28th. That's where famous rock, paper, scissors tournament happens. And the winner gets a Stahl's Vision IQ 360 hat press, which is the best piece of equipment. People are making
it's really fantastic.
You could get a fantastic car payment out of what you get out of that thing. And then
I love it.
So it's going to be great. So we've got a fantastic lineup of speakers. Jay Basel's kicking us off. He's doing a whole thing on community building. Allie Banholzer, who's our resident badass, is doing a whole thing on Lean Six Sigma. Jenna Sackett's doing a deal on lead gen. Lori Feldman, who presented at our St. Louis event, is doing a thing on drip marketing. Tom Round is doing a whole thing on referrals. And then our keynote speaker is Mike Michalowicz, who wrote Profit First, Pumpkin Plan, a whole bunch of other books. He has a new book coming out next year about hiring and retaining employees. And he's doing an hour and a half on his book, right?
Wow,
so
fantastic.
Plus you're hanging out with all these folks with our networking and breaks and lunches and stuff. So
very cool.
Huge thanks to our sponsors, and I got to go, so I won't mention them by name, but go to shirtlablive.com and get signed up. Love to see you there. I got to go.
All right, Marshall, thank you for being with us.
Thanks so much. And definitely we want you back. We're going to have 1,000 more questions. So
right.
Later, sir.
Thanks, guys.
All right. See you later.
All right.
See you soon. Fantastic.
Yeah, good stuff. I mean, like
really
I said,
do have 100 more questions, but
I know we're going to chat about it a little bit more since there's a lot more I know we have to talk about on this kind of topic, and I know more people want to talk about. Before that, I know we have a little bit of business to do that we didn't get to do.
Yeah, we'll do a little housekeeping.
Why not?
So.
Why not?
All right. So, Eric, before we keep going, we want to thank everybody for checking out the Two Regular Guys podcast. We are always looking for new guests. So if you or anyone you know would like to join us, go to calendly.com/2 regular guys with your show ideas. We need your voices. We want to do some new intros. You guys have been hearing our intros for the last 10 years, and we try to update those with new voices all the time. So we would love to have the regulators participate, and go to decorators.ink/intro and just read a few sentences and be a part of the show going forward.
Yep.
And we would appreciate you giving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Amazon Podcast, wherever you do your podcast listening. And if you're watching us live right now, please join in with your comments and questions as Eric and I continue on with this discussion.
Absolutely. But before we get into that, I think I want to go ahead and give Aaron a moment here because he's got some great stuff he's trying to get to. I'll have to admit we have to make sure and get it all sorted out because sometimes Aaron will have all this laid out for me before we get going. And honestly, it looks like he may or may not have given me the right tag for which promo we're going to do. So we're going to go ahead and give him a link to that mindset promo and let you hear a little bit more about what's going on with OSG.
So I want to share with you 3 mental states most business owners struggle to master. It's goal setting so that you believe it's possible. It's facing fears to be able to step outside of your comfort zone. And finally, taking action even when you're not sure what action to take. Now, 90% of the challenges business owners have faced have nothing to do with the nuts and bolts of running a business. It's not the accounting, the production, or even the marketing. It is the mindset. Now, as entrepreneurs, we need to cultivate a mindset that we were never taught in school.
All right, so Aaron has that going on over at osg.link/mindset. There's also other great stuff he's got going on for revolutionizing your business. Go over to OSG and check out more of what Aaron has going on. So believe me, he's got a lot to teach and a lot to share about not only getting your head right, but getting yourself working on your business, not just in your business. So it's really great stuff from Aaron and OSG. So, all right, Terry, I mean, we had to absorb a lot this morning because we were already talking to Marshall. He's live making stuff in MidJourney, which, by the way, it does feel weird. If you guys don't know, Discord is a chat app originally made for gamers. So this is like a gamer chat app. This is a communications app. And we're talking to the MidJourney AI server through that chat app. It is a new way of doing things in a way we really never have done. And I'll say, though I'm not as at all down the rabbit hole as far as some of the people who have been out there doing the AI stuff already, but I've been kind of using lots of the products myself and exploring some possibilities. But it brings up a lot of questions and concerns that I think everybody has. So I want to toss around a few questions, and hopefully you'll bear with me because I know, Terry, I'm putting you on the spot for some of this stuff for your opinions. But let's just toss some questions around and talk about AI, man.
Well, yeah, I think the biggest thing for me, and I think, and as you said, a lot of people are out there using this, but I think it's the minority of people. I'm going to guess that a majority of the people who are listening to, watching this show or listening to the podcast version of the show are going to be like, I had no idea that I didn't know this existed. So, what you tell me, Erich?
Either one of us is here. It's fine.
So what do you what kind of concerns do you have about decorators out there using this? And I'm going to jump off on a tangent, and I don't know if you know the answer to this either. But
yeah,
as Marshall was talking, I thought, okay, what about the person who says, I'm a Chiefs fan, I want a Chiefs Super Bowl graphic. Well,
yeah,
and so now there's somebody that has the Chiefs logo on their jersey, and so it's. I'm afraid people are going to see this and say, "Well, it's okay because it's generated by the computer, but it's not okay." If it's got somebody's trademark logo on it. So what's your feeling?
Well, here's the thing. First thing I'm going to tell everybody is when people show you AI, they show you kind of best case scenarios for it. And I'm just going to be really clear. AI doesn't do text correctly. If you say a logo or a name and you prompt it, it frequently will bring you back something that looks like letters but isn't. Now, I'm not saying it's going to continue being like that forever, but you'll ask it for a logo and you'll get back something that looks like you're in an alien language that's been made by an art director for a movie because the letters don't really make perfect sense, but they look like the style of the logo. AI takes apart images and makes them into these almost like language, like phonemes, these little elements that it can reconstruct. And I'm probably explaining it incorrectly. But I'm not an AI, an AI builder. I'm not a programmer of it. But when it puts it back together, it does it in the style of a thing. It doesn't really know words. It doesn't know how we form lettering. So regenerating some of these logos is probably going to happen. What I do see people doing, though, and may or may not expose them, is they'll go ahead and use color prompts that are team colors to get something close, and then they drop a logo that they've gotten from any other number of vector sources that we all know are out there and put that on together as a garment. But the thing is, it's the use that makes this illegal, not the generation. If you start generating stuff if you put logos on anything, it doesn't matter whose drawing it was or whose art it was, you slap a Chiefs logo on it and you're infringing if you sell that. We all know that. So I think some of those questions are just more about, hey, we already know what happens if you go down this route. It doesn't really matter what tool we used, whether we use generative AI or we drew it ourselves. If we know we're stepping on toes, we're stepping on toes. And I think that's really what it is. And for me, and this is kind of what I wanted to bring up to you too, though I see people complaining or being concerned, and not complaining is the wrong word, being concerned about using it for, direct print or anything like that, where we're just going straight from AI to print. I think there's secondary art, there's marketing materials, there's like Marshall was showing, if you needed a background scene of a crowds because you're going to be promoting something to teams for schools and you want to put like a soft image of a crowd behind someone wearing a garment, what a great way to do that without having to take shots of a crowd or go get stock photography. And you can tweak the way that the crowd looks. You can tweak the levels without having to do any Photoshop work yourself. There's a certain amount of work that I don't think is super creative, and I don't mean to put it, it's not like putting some sort of pallor over it, but it's something that you just need this stock image, and rather than filing through tons and tons of stock, you might decide to use generative AI to do it. And I don't see that that's necessarily that bad. It's not the same as making, like I said, if you try and ask it for a brand new logo for someone, you're going to be very sad if you throw text into it and think it's going to be a logo type. It's just not going to do it correctly. It still requires people to do that kind of work.
I thought Marshall's example of that denim fabric, and for podcast listeners, I mean, it looked really, really cool. And he used it as a fill for lettering. I thought, oh my gosh, that's what an awesome tool, rather than search the internet for denim fabric that you're going to borrow and use as a fill. But, you know, Erich, my concern also is that there's so much misunderstanding about copyright or trademark.
Always.
I mean, I had somebody say to me once at a trade show, my attorney says anything on the internet's okay to print on a shirt. And I'm like, oh my God, no, that is not correct.
Not whatsoever. Yeah.
And you know, we've had an attorney on here many times talking. We've got to have him back, by the way, to talk about this.
Oh, I'm sure.
But I'm just fearful that people are going to take this technology and just abuse the heck out of it.
Oh, sure.
You know, on Etsy.
I think what's more concerning than AI, honestly, is just a flood of generate and print with no input, with no skill materials. That's more concerning to me, is that someone will just literally go out to Etsy and figure out with a tool chain with AI, which would not be difficult whatsoever, just to make a ton of mock-ups of cute cat shirts and just blast 1 million of them out there without trying. Just generate and post. Just generate and post and generate and post until digital marketplaces become so cluttered that you can't get anything that's unique. And there's an argument to be made for that. But I'm going to go ahead and bring up what Tanya said, because she's really been enjoying playing with it. She says this, though: you can be afraid and you can be angry about it, or you can up your game to use it better, be more efficient, more creative. I think it's more like this to me. It's like, it's out of the bag. It's out there. It hasn't been controlled yet. We don't have fences around it. Someone's going to use it. It's probably up to us in the industry who want to establish some practices for it to at least know what we're talking about, whether or not you want to use it that way.
You know, Erich, this week I heard someone say to a decorator that in 2 years, graphic designers will be a thing of the past. And I thought, and of course I'm flashing back.
Yeah, I know where you're going.
In 2 years, screen printing will be gone. In 2 years, this will be gone. I'm like, oh my gosh, why do people have to jump to that conclusion that, oh, well,
that's it.
You're done. Screen printers are gone.
Well,
you put in 30 years learning how, you're done.
Yeah.
Another tool that we can use.
Obviously. And honestly, the other thing is, if you want something that's entirely brand new, AI can't do that. AI digests existing material and spits out new stuff that's based on those styles. Now, can we get to some new and interesting materials because we do new combinations? That's kind of what artists do anyway. We take in a lot of information and then we create new things from all these influences that we have. So it does make something that can be newer, interesting. But if you want something completely alien, completely different, you may have to make it yourself. And I mean, that's the thing. We're still going to have room to put things into this. Plus, like any other art, this is one that I brought up. I talked with Marshall briefly about AI, and this is one of the examples I brought up. Digital sign printing did not take away the window painter, did not take away the hand lettering sign guy. Are there far fewer of them? Yes. Are there people who make their entire career being excellent hand-painted sign people? Absolutely. And there's some really fantastic ones. I frequently share them on my social media because I am fascinated by watching someone who's a very good pinstriper, who's a very good sign painter do their job. There's always room for an artisan to do the highest version of the work. Whereas for those of us who really, it's like Marshall said, you got a high school who just says, oh yeah, I want a bear, but I want it to be, in a football helmet. We maybe don't need to draw 1 million of those. I mean, maybe that's not the most creative art you can do on your given day. And if that's okay, I mean, it's kind of like I said about digitizing. There's an end to how many times I want to make the running plumber that we've all made 50 times since, 1963 when the first guy drew the running plumber. I've digitized 4 of them that I remember off the top of my head right now. If someone wants to take over the running plumber for me, I'm not going to argue anymore because it's not super creative work. And sometimes it just needs to get bashed out because it's what somebody wants for their logo. I don't know that that's the worst thing to say. And I'm really against most of that auto digitizing. But because it takes away our creative impetus, I don't know that this takes it all away, and it still allows for us to work. So I'm in the middle on this right now. But I think like I said, I don't know that copyright for me is not the big concern. For me, the concern is just the glut of people who are going to make a plugin. There is a plugin that we talked about. It was on the news last episode where people do a prompt and then order a shirt. That plugin for me is a little scarier. But then honestly, if you're someone with a DTG printer or DTF, that's kind of great for you because you're literally doing nothing but the print and the selling. It's a hard thing between business and creativity where we want to put this thing in, and what does it mean to us?
Well, we're a little short on time, as
Yeah,
always.
sure.
But you're a writer, I'm a writer, and by the way, I wrote an
Yeah, let's
entire
talk about this,
novel
yeah.
around a painted window sign, beer, bait, and barbecue.
Which, by the way, great novel. I've read every word. So
thank you very
fantastic.
much.
Yeah.
But as a writer,
Yeah.
talk to us a little bit about the
Sure.
these models for. And Aaron uses the AI.
Yeah, he uses ChatGPT pretty frequently.
Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about that
Sure.
for people who don't know.
Well, there's not just these image models. We have large language models like OpenAI actually has GPT. GPT-4 is the one that's in their Plus program. ChatGPT-3 or GPT-3 is the model that's behind ChatGPT that's free that everybody's been using. And it does the same thing. It carves language up into smaller words. It digests a mass amount of language into smaller chunks so that it can then reconstitute this stuff. And it comes out sounding pretty intelligent. It's not that bad. What I'm going to say is whole cloth creation, it has a tendency to be confidently wrong. And especially when it first came out, it's getting better and better. It's the worst it's ever going to be. We know right now it's the worst it's ever going to look. But I remember asking it technical questions. The one that I always refer to is I was like, okay, what's the difference between 40 and 60 weight thread? For those in the embroidery world, we know 40 weight thread is thicker than 60 weight. It actually gets thinner as the numbers go higher in that particular system of measurement. And it continually told me that 60 weight was thicker. And the thing is, everything else it said was reasonable. These were all reasonable assumptions about what you should do with different threads, how thicker and thinner threads worked. But that one technical difference, the way it digested this, it just could not get past the concept that the larger number was thicker. So the thing is, if you digest this stuff out, you just ask it a question and try and publish an article, you can be confidently wrong. And you will sound confidently wrong and people will call you out for it. So it still needs expert review, but it does incredible work, especially with things like summarizing. I have put one of my articles in it and asked for a summary, and it was bang on point for point. It had every bullet point I would have gathered out of that material. And then I'm going to say, as someone who works in the software world right now, I'm looking at things like there are chat bots that use a document for the training model. So you could do something like put in your training manual for your shop or a manual for a piece of equipment and talk to it. You could ask it questions and it will come back. Now, these models are still in early days. Chat PDF is one that I've played with. There's a couple others where they will give you links and sometimes they'll even show you the document on the left-hand side and your question and answer session on the right-hand side and move to the place in the manual it's referring to when you ask the questions. These, I think, are very useful tools. AI is not just creating out of nowhere. The big language models have been trained on mass amounts of text, generally from the internet. There's arguments as to whether that's good or bad, but it can digest things, it can alter things, it can add to them, it can help you to summarize, it can give you bullet points and formatting in text. These things can be useful because, once again, it takes out kind of that doldrum work, that work that we don't always want to do. That's not the creative work. It's not writing. It's reorganizing. It's summarizing a piece of text so that you can put a link up and have a summary section whenever you guys have doing like the social graphs where you have to have a small summary for your blog post. Fantastic way to get that done is in ChatGPT or in one of those models.
Yeah, Erich, Aaron and I just did for Printing United Alliance. We did an educational course on DTG and DTF, and for each section that each of us did, we also had to add 4 or 3 or 4 review questions. And of course, I'm sitting here, thinking up all these questions, and Aaron goes, "Oh, mine are done." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "Oh, I just had AI do them." And I'm like, "Oh my God." And those are so much better than mine.
Well, and it's the thing is, you've already written the material. You have a vetted expert who wrote the material. All it's doing is going through because it understands how language is put together, and it goes, okay, I see these key points. I flip a statement into a question. It's the same thing you do when you're doing it. When you're making questions, it's just doing it automatically and quickly. And by the way, you don't have to use that text. In fact, I've got a really easy story with Cindy King in Texas talking about this. She's like, I have a story about AI. We're doing rosters, and the people send them in files that are last name, first name. We put it in AI, and it reversed first, last, and no comments and saved us hours. So she just used it to reformat a list of text. I think that's the thing is everybody thinks what we're doing with AI, and people are doing this with AI, saying, write me an article about this, write me a news story about this, write me an ad about this. And I think, and then using it. Now, I think the other problem is it doesn't have a lot of style. AI sounds very samey, especially like GPT-3. I'm sorry, it doesn't. You can give it prompts, just like Marshall showed you with styles like duotone and color. You can talk about what the article should sound like, what style it should be in, and it will work with prompts. But it's kind of samey. It has its same understanding of language. But stuff like this, reformatting a big list of text, getting bullet points out of something, doing a summary, or honestly, putting your ideas together and just starting. Like I said, blank page syndrome. We've all had the blank page in front of us and can't figure it out. But sometimes just reacting to a thing can make it better. So you say, all right, what's the most important stuff about this topic? And it comes back with something that was digested out of the internet. And you're like, no, that's not the most important stuff. We now have a thing to react against. And it's sometimes that's easier for people than the blank page. Rather than come up with a list. Yeah,
Eric, say for instance, there's a podcast and they did their 500th episode, and one of the people accidentally deleted from the internet the entire outline of that show, but we needed to post it. AI wrote that, everybody, when you go to episode number 500, because I am the person who accidentally deleted it.
Well, and the other thing I'm going to tell you guys, I actually tried this. Now I haven't gotten to play with it a lot. There's a website out there, a program out there called, I believe it's called Descriptor. I'll have to look back into it because it's something I wasn't planning on talking about today. It will take a transcript from your show or the entire recording, break it down and make show notes, give you a bullet point of topics, give you a summary. Now I'm going to tell you, is it totally right? No, I did one, and some of the people who are my listeners who I brought them up by name. It thought they were co-hosts because they had so many comments that I brought up in the thing that's like, oh, Erich Campbell and his co-host Christine Shreve. Christine wasn't on with me that day. She just had a lot of good comments that I read.
She had a lot to say.
She had a lot to say, and I read it out. And so Christine ended up being my co-host in those notes. But how much less time do you think I would spend making show notes if I had that to start from? Oh, that's incorrect, and I just corrected those things.
It's like having a personal assistant. Hey, go through this and pull out.
Take some notes for me real quick.
Yeah.
And then you look back and do it. Plus, I'm seeing a lot of people using it to study. Like I said with that chat PDF, you get a handout from someone and you put it in there and say, summarize this, ask me some questions. What's the most important part about blah? And when you're digesting that text, because the original text is a known good piece of text is real. It's from an expert. It's something worthwhile that you intended to read. It's not just taking that information. It's when you ask the bare prompt that comes from the language model to give you information that you might be misled. Processing information that we already have that we know is good helps. And believe it or not, there's a bunch of, we always talk about ChatGPT that lives somewhere else. If you are the kind of person who is highly technical, I have run server-based stuff locally before. I have not run any of the AI stuff. You can run local models that you train off your own documents that don't have necessarily all that other information in them. It's more than just ChatGPT that has a 2020 version of the internet that it was trained on. That's the reality of GPT-3. But the tool, the large language model as a tool, is more than that. Oh, there we go. Descript. Yeah, Christopher just said that. That program is called Descript. It can be used for audio and video. Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good one. And here's another one. Christopher also has a comment about his usage. I use ChatGPT to help design my website, asked it to walk through the design process, ask me in steps like I was filling in a template, allowed me to make changes and work through it. Yeah, it can be a partner for you to do work. And I think that is a useful thing to do with it.
Yeah, exactly. So we are definitely out of time. And Erich and I often will say, hey, make sure we finish on time. That week we can always blame Aaron for going over.
Yeah, right.
But I have one more question for you. And
sure.
We always do that crystal ball show at the end of the year, so you can have dibs on this one.
Okay.
When we do that show, but What's your prediction? Where do you think we're going to go with AI in our industry moving forward?
I definitely think that we're going to see people using those plugins like I described, and then having some more additions through design. We already have these design softwares are there. If you imagine all of the online designers that we have, just also having the ability to add to them a image that comes from a prompt like that, I think that's happening. In fact, we already see it happening, but I think it will be more mature, and we will see it being added to the design tools we use in online designers. I think that is a reality that's going to come up. Frankly, I think that more people will use it, and will finally suss out what it's going to look like and the highs and lows of using it. I think we're going to find that legal argument also get challenged within the next year or two. Also, for the people who keep asking me about embroidery, yes, I think it's coming to embroidery, but we have to remember that embroidery is like a tool path. It's like a CAD program. It's something where I'm driving a machine, and it has to do it correctly for it to work correctly. I think there is a point at which it will be trained on someone's large set of designs, but remember, we have to have the design and the embroidery file, and it has to understand how the machine works. So someone has to put in some work for that to happen. Haven't seen it yet, but I know there has got to be those discussions. In fact, I've been part of some of those discussions with people behind the scenes who are looking to do that. It's about money, time, and know-how, and where those three things come together, I think it will eventually happen. It's out of the bag. It just depends on who's going to invest in it and how it's going to shake out.
I was listening when I was listening to Marshall. I was thinking, because he and I are longtime screen printers. 30 years ago, we used to pay separators to do simulated process separations for us for $1,000, and then Scott Fresner comes out with software. With a button click, it creates that exact same separation. This is kind of the same thing. Hey, I still have to print the shirts, but I'm not paying $1,000 for somebody to create that separation for me. So I think it's along the same lines.
That's digitizing. Used to be one stitch at a time, drawn on a 6:1 big giant. It was a tablet with a big drawing that was done ahead of time called the cartoon. It took two people to do one design, and it was hours and hours and hours, cost an immense amount of money. And then we got the ability to define an area and say, fill this with fill stitches. I'm starting here, I'm ending here. Please put this kind of stitches in. And that automation is now considered, de rigueur. It's the way that it's done. But that, when it first started, that wasn't the way. It was absolutely new. That was automation. And in fact, I'll give one last comment to Todd from Fat Dad here. He says, AI is now as was automation before, right? As automation was before. Yes, some jobs may be lost, but things will become faster, more efficient. You either grow with it or die. And I think for me, it's like digitizing. You can still do manual digitizing, and some people do. We use it inside of our modern digitizing software to do massive amounts of really fine control. But when you're trying to just fill an area with stitches, and it's something that is not a creative venture, it's something you have to do, a little bit of automation goes a long way to getting you much faster and able to make more pieces. And ultimately, we're in a commercial industry here. Yes, the art is important. Yes, the creativity is important, but the speed and the ability to deliver are going to be important to us and win out in a lot of ways.
Exactly right.
All right.
Well, I'm feeling confident we have another show coming soon.
I think we're going to have to. Yeah.
This is going to be our old niche market where we did one like every 6 weeks. we're going to be doing AI, but hey,
sure.
Let me share with everybody what Aaron has coming up. September 13th, Impressions Expo Fort Worth workshop. ABCs, design, print, market, with the he's doing this with the Magic Touch, CorelTrainer.com, and Creo, along with our success group. And it's a full day workshop where they will provide a start to finish look at custom apparel from initial design to final print and beyond. And they're going to walk through each step, equipping you with the tools to create, organize, market, and deliver more to your customers. If you'd like to know more about that, it's the day before, I believe.
Yes.
Eric, is that correct?
Yeah.
Go to osg.link /ABCs. How about you, Eric? What do you have coming up?
Well, today I have take up number 157. Can't believe it's been 3 years. 3 years that you could stream one a week if you wanted to. Cover-ups and corrections. So we're talking about when things go wrong in embroidery and what you do to fix it. We're going to talk about fixing these embroidery mishaps, why we might want to consider a cover-up, and when it just makes sense to put down the blade and pick up a catalog and order a replacement, because sometimes you just need to quit picking out stitches, folks. Head over to erichcampbell.com and click on the Take Up link at the top, and you'll be able to get the full playlist. But it's happening live at 2:30 Mountain Time. Mountain Daylight Time? Let me be correct. And if you want to check that out today, this afternoon, I'd love for you to share your insights about picking stitches and why you should or shouldn't do it. Also, as with Terry, we're also going to be together at Fort Worth. And hey, Marshall's going to be there teaching MidJourney too. Impressions Fort Worth is coming up shortly. September sounds like a long way away, but it'll come up on us fast. And I'll be teaching presenting embroidery's value proposition. And there may be something else that I'm appearing for. But like we said, there's some interesting things going on. They're trying to do some new stuff at Impressions Expo. I know because I'm over on the board there trying to help with some of this stuff. And I see more opportunities coming in, especially as next year gets rolling. So, Terry, how about you? What do you have going on?
Well, I have in about an hour at 1 o'clock Eastern time, Jay Bassell and I are going to be hosting an Equipment Zone webinar about new products, and we might just have a special guest from Epson coming to talk about a new DTG printer. So you can still register. It's a free webinar. Go to equipmentzone.com, and again, that's going to be at 1 o'clock Eastern time today.
Nice.
My complete screen printing business course schedule. I'll be at Atlas Screen Supply in Chicago, August 26th and 27th. Back here in Phoenix at Workhorse Products, September 23rd and 24th. And as you mentioned, all of us will be in Fort Worth. I guess we're going to be doing a live show.
Looks like it.
I'm going to be talking about DTG and DTF printing, and I'll also be moderating a panel there as well. And as you mentioned, Erich, that'll be September 14th through 16th.
Yes. All right. Well, watch for all that at terrycombs.com, folks. Tour dates tab is live. We got stuff going on. But with that, I think we've come to another close of the show. And hey, not too far over the limit, a couple minutes over. We're doing all right. Thank you very much to Marshall Atkinson for coming on and sharing all that about MidJourney and getting us started on a topic that I think we'll be revisiting repeatedly, as Terry said.
Exactly right. And thank you, Erich, for not only being the show producer, but being the always on call co-host.
That I am. All right. Next week, though, I shouldn't be. Hopefully, we're going to have Aaron back. And it looks like we'll have Rick Damer with 613 Originals. He'll be joining to talk about custom heat transfer artwork and apparel decorations. So that's going to be great.
I keep running into Rick at airports saying, "Hey, man, we have to get you on the show." So here it is.
Finally happening, man. Finally happening.
Exactly. All right. Until then, I'm Terry Combs. He's Erich Campbell, sitting in for Aaron Montgomery.
And that was the Two Regular Guys.
Here we go. We're out.
Awesome.
Thank you for listening to Two Regular Guys. Check out our website at tworegularguys.com. That's the number 2, regularguys.com. You can also interact with us over at our Facebook page, facebook.com/tworegularguys, or send us a tweet, twitter.com/tworegularguys. And we have a YouTube page. You can find all that from our website, tworegularguys.com. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to spending some time with you again next week.